Okay, I just saw you playing out there, and you look real good. Who are you?
Well, you know, I'm Mrs. Gankisa. I'm the best footballer point ever see.
Oh, really? You, you know any of the older players who play here in Point?
Well, I know Warren Archibald, Leroy Dillion.
Stop. You know me? Boy, I was the best striker, the best forward that this country ever seen.
Oh, Wilfred K.
Boy, I'm Steve David, boy. Okay, viewers, welcome to another edition of Field of Dreams, an Axe Television Network. My name is Steve David, and I'm your host. Today we can talk about rivalry in football. Of course, with the younger generation. This is a two-part. We did one with the older guys. This is with the younger guys, not so young, but younger guys. And we will discuss rivalry in football in their era. So let me introduce the panel. And our panel today is Anthony Sherwood. Anthony, and you played for St. Benedict's College?
Presentation
College. And then you went on to?
Played with the various national teams, went to Youth World Cup in Portugal.
Right.
And then went abroad to the US to university. And
okay. Okay. And viewers, I know the guys, but not familiar with their background because I obviously was playing outside and professional outside of Trinidad and Tobago. And my other guest to my right, Larry Joseph. And Larry, you played for Petrotrin.
Trintoc originally.
Trintoc. And then
before that, Presentation also like Anthony.
Presentation College.
So from Presentation went on to Trintoc.
Trintoc.
And that merged into United Petrotrin.
Right.
And in between those, some national teams.
And all the national teams. All these players here are national players, right? And last but not least, Brian Williams. And Brian, I know, I had a couple of games with Brian when I was going out and Brian was coming in, obviously.
Yeah.
And so, Brian, and you played for college? Any college team?
No, I didn't play colleges league.
You play in Petrotrin?
As they would say, the predecessor companies of Petrotrin, taking it right back from Tesoro,
right?
Right, straight to Trintopec.
Right.
Right, and then we went on to the merger with well, I played with Trintoc,
right,
and then I went on to Petrotrin. I had a little time with aviation services, which was ASL, and the national youth teams and senior team.
Right, and also play for our national team, of course.
Definitely.
And Brian was the big standout in our game, we so-called game with the US that we lost, but Brian was the big standout in that game.
Right.
Of
Yes.
course, my MVP in that game.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I want to start. What I want to start with you guys is there must be a player out there that you guys have played against or with, but mainly against, who was a rivalry, and who caused you heartache or pain, or not so much, or who made you become a better player, or who made you put out a little bit more. Who is that player? If there is any such player out there.
Well, it would have to go by eras or when I was in college with Presentation, right? There was a guy who used to play with St. Augustine named Sean Leger, who I thought at that time was absolutely fantastic. I mean, the guy's technical ability to me was unbelievable. You know, I would be playing, when we play against St. Augustine, I would stand in awe to see how this guy would control the ball between defenders with so much composure. And every time he had the ball, I would say, well, okay, this is another goal for St. Augustine. So during my college days, Sean Leger stood out for me.
Right.
You know, when I went over to Trintock, our main rivalry during those years was the defense force, right? And played in the midfield. They had another guy who had my complexion. Name was Sloan Seal. He was unbelievable in terms of his stamina and his work rate. So that in those really tight games, he had the ability to change the outcome because of both his stamina and his work rate. Yeah. So he had a huge reputation back in my days because of that. So he was one of the persons that I was, when I was on the park playing against him, would be very scared of.
Right.
You know. So those two people jump out at me immediately. You know.
What about you, Brian?
Yes, well, likewise, Larry, you know, we'll have to go in eras because, like, for instance, I didn't play in the colleges league, but coming out of Palo Seco in Tesoro days at a tender age, I started playing at the senior level at the age of 14, and that was a real challenge, you know. But some of our key competitors were the defense force at that time, you know, even some taken straight up to Petrotrin. So I can remember guys like, as a defender, I can remember guys like Bert Neptune, Denzel White. These guys was exceptional ball handlers. And I know, especially Bert Neptune, if I say to a certain extent, getting to know you carries some of the similar features where a guy could carry the ball on both feet and sometimes protect it from the defender. And Bert Neptune had some of them, that type of qualities, and he was also a good goal scorer. So, and seeing the two guys that I'm talking about, like Denzel White and Bert Neptune, even our own Trevor Frederick, some point Fortin,
Right.
There was really difficult type of players to deal with. Both Denzel and Bert Wright, well, we could well say they are deceased, God rest their souls, but they were really good players to really make a defense uncomfortable. So I spent some really uncomfortable time with these guys, you know, these guys as a defender. So it was, you know, and I met a lot of other guys, you know, this guy he played with ASL for a little while too. I forgot, his name can't come to my thing. He went off a little bit. I forget his name really, but he too was also one of a dangerous player.
In our time or your time?
No, in my time.
With ASL?
Yeah, he played with
I was
ASL. He was at Mokorapo. He played with Mokorapo when he used to go to school at Mokorapo. He went off a little bit. I forget his name.
Played with the national team?
Little bit. Yeah, but his name will come to me. But some of those guys was
Not
really.
Cochrane.
Not Cochrane. I forget his name really. But these guys was really difficult.
Yeah.
Well, I had good encounters from a national level, but Roy George and Enting from Suriname, from a international level too. Well, you might have a little time with Roy George and Enting.
Right.
They was more kind of a senior to me, but I also played against them on the national team, and I know the kind of movement and ability and technical ability to control and protect the football with and Bert Neptune was a natural goal scorer. So those are some of the guys who I could really remember in those days was really kind of really difficult to deal with. From an inspirational point of view, I came into the national team and met people like Steve Pierre. I had a little time with this guy from the east there too.
Sammy?
That
Sammy, you didn't need Sammy.
Not Godfrey Harris, no.
Godfrey Harris.
Yeah.
Godfrey Harris. Yes, Godfrey Harris.
Right.
I met and we can't underestimate because I play against Ron Lafferty too.
Ron Lafferty.
For a little time. I met those guys kind of way on the national team, just leaving the national team. So there was guys where you could have taken a little page out of the book from a football understanding because they were so result oriented, especially Ron.
Yeah.
Ron is a guy with a lot of pride, and regardless about
Didn't like
certain
to
things,
lose.
he don't like to lose. Don't like to lose.
Yeah.
So there was inspiration in that time from that aspect to be really competitive and result oriented.
Right.
Yeah.
What you, Anthony?
I think for me,
College.
rivalries, I think more in terms of teams, to be honest with you. As somebody
Yeah.
who, like Larry, played at Presentation College, most natural rival would have been Naparima College,
Right.
St. Benedict's College. And then anytime you're representing a school like Presentation College in a intercol semi-final or final,
Right.
then it's all of Port of Spain. It's all of the east of
Yeah.
Trinidad,
Right.
So as I look back on that time, for me, there obviously guys who stood out as I grew up. But I think, when I look back on, at that time, I think more in terms of, the excitement that certain teams created, in some of these occasions.
You were forward or midfield?
I was more of a center midfielder.
Center midfielder?
Yeah, center midfielder.
So you coming up against guys like Larry and
yeah.
Larry didn't make you uncomfortable?
Larry today still makes us uncomfortable.
Still make it
To be very honest with you, as I mentioned, we played a game not too long ago, and
Right.
the great thing about it is that you look at Brian Williams, you look at Larry, you look at Philbert Jones, Dexter Francis, and these guys, and you can still see the quality that they bring to football. Obviously, as older guys, the fitness levels and everything else,
That drop with the
yeah,
game
that's
stage.
gonna drop. But you can see, and what's amazing to me is, I take great pride in still having the chance to, at an invitation from these guys to come out and maybe play with the strike squad. And you'll go to various areas in Trinidad, and people come out and you see the respect
Right.
that they have for these guys. So, unquestionably, I look at a Russell Latapy, for instance. I remember the first time coming into the strike squad, I was 17 years of age. Very, very intimidated by the environment. It was a very established team. These guys were established players on that team. And I just remember the quality that a guy like Russell brought to the training sessions, to the games. So, as you look back, there are just so many teams and so many players that you could call, but, it's, it all makes for this passion and love that we have for the game.
Right. Looking at players, I really, when I played, there wasn't no defender I was really scared about coming up with. I was like, hey, you have to deal with me. I have to deal with you, right?
course.
And that's how I looked at it. I know, but there was one we played a VO, and there was one guy from Gonzal. Point was playing Gonzal. Guy but he didn't put on any deodorant that day either. So he was rubbing over me too. I couldn't handle that. But he gave me the most trouble that I could ever think about in all the football I played, because he wasn't smelling good also, but he was doing a great job on me. So,
Probably because
So it's
he
really
didn't wear the deodorant.
But
Steve.
but Steve, talking about rivalry, I think from a football developmental aspect, I think it's important for me to stay right at home, because I grew up in Palo Seco,
right.
and I was a member of the Palo Seco Sporting Club. Well, played for that most of my times, and I shouldn't leave out. It's difficult to leave out people like the Eddie Jones and the Roosevelt Alexander, the Trevor Johnsler, who they were senior to me. So because I started playing for Palo Seco at senior national level at the age of 14. I made the national team at the age of 17.
Right.
So going to Palo Seco, I had to contend with the Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones is one of the players that we saw even self at national level everybody could say was a menace. I know, and having to deal with these guys even self in training. I remember, because they couldn't, they wasn't my rivalry, because I was so glad to play with them. But they add a lot, I should say, to my whole football development and stuff, because we had a lot of guys from Palo Seco, even self likewise Point Fortin, where we were so close in even self, I would say even self rivalry too, the Point Fortin team.
Right.
Because there's a lot of guys from Point Fortin that
A lot.
I had to deal with, you know,
Yes.
that I had to deal with, and that was good
Like
too.
nice on them.
Yeah, so I think I should mention those guys' name because they was really instrumental in part of my development to be a good defender, a better defender. Yeah.
And not always is somebody you come up against. Like I'll tell you something too. Guys, forwards from other teams that's doing well, that's a rival for me too because I want to be the leading goal scorer.
Right.
So I keep my eyes on what other people doing.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, after the game, see who scored and how much they scored, so I can keep abreast or in front. So you know, all of that makes me a better player.
Right. Right.
All that's rivalry. That's
Well,
the kind
for
of
me,
thing.
I used
so.
to work on. I used to do a lot of personal training back in the day. I mean, for me,
Yes.
and I didn't need anybody. I just needed a ball and I didn't even need a field. And I grew up next to 2 fields. But I would be in my gallery.
Right.
I would be downstairs, and that was good enough for me because I always wanted to better myself, right? And I would use those times to work on my control or first touch. Because I'm always thinking, you know, when the game starts, I want to be able to do this a little better, a little faster when the game time comes around. So I used to make time to do my personal training, and I was oblivious to anything else around me during the time. And I used to enjoy those moments. You know, I was considered like a pest because when like Brian, at a young age, I used to want to go and mix up with those older guys.
Right.
And I grew up in Library. When you went on the front ground in Library was Texaco ground. So only the big puppies could be there. The background, which is the public ground, everybody else had to go in the back there. But I always feel, I go in and tie up with them big guys.
Right.
And they would clout me and chase me and say, boy, go from here, the background is for you. But I would stay.
Yeah.
And after a while, by my insistence, they would allow me to play with one or two of them fellas like Kelvin Moran, Selwyn Pastured, and the later part of his career, and some real stalwarts back in those days. And what I used to admire about those guys is I don't think they really had formal training like some of the modern guys, but their technical ability was unsurpassed.
Yeah.
It was like a second nature for them. The first touch, the kicking ability, when to dribble and thing. And I mean, to me, it was always something that I was able to pick from them to make my game a little better. So like Brian, growing up between older guys definitely helped my game to develop. Yeah.
Spending time with the ball. That's it.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, we never had coach.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
the captain kind of run the session.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of so on. So.
Yeah, so I mean, you could see me on the backfield alone in that savannah.
Right.
But I mean, I was oblivious to anybody around me. I just wanted to do my stuff
Right.
because I knew when game time come around, I wanted to be able to perform.
Yes.
So that was my
Yes,
focus
yeah.
at that time.
So none of you ever had somebody from other teams that you says, yeah, this guy is, you know, carrying me to higher heights because he is pushing me. I have to be better than this guy. I know I have to stay abreast. Nobody like that.
Again, I think it's for me. It was always admiring the qualities of the front players. You know?
Right.
I remember
Yeah.
a guy like, for instance, Ivan Sampson, who was at St. Benedict's
yes,
College.
Yes.
He seemed to have a, an influence on the people from Laramie who would come to support St. Benedict's. That always left me dumbfounded. I remember in those days, you know, St. Benedict's College scores a goal. All of the fans, you know, at Skinner Park are on the field, you know, and it would almost seem as if the police officers are looking towards Ivan Sampson to try to get the fans off the field. And I would say to myself, well, this is amazing, you know, this guy has this much influence on his supporters and his fans, you know.
Right.
But in those days for us, I mean, as young guys, those were big occasions. You know, I remember coming up to Port of Spain and playing against Shaka Hislop with St. Mary's College, for instance. So that's a big occasion for us at 14 years of age, for instance. You know, and then as we got older, obviously, I played with Brian and Larry at Petritrin or Trintock in those days. Well, Petritrin, I think more so.
Yes.
And you know, teams like the Defence Force and you know, the other teams that existed out there. Just created something special about getting ready to play on any given day.
Right. So I mean, college and Brian, in your case, teams. Who were those rivals? Like presentation, it was Benedict's your rival, and
Naparima was our perennial,
Yeah, I
still
think
is.
Presentation College and Naparima
Yeah,
College
that's
will
a
always be
perennial
rivals.
rival. Yeah,
And I think it goes beyond just football.
Presentation and Naps?
Academically,
yeah.
there's always that, you know,
That's
that
institutionalized rivalry in South.
even in schoolwork and
Even
stuff.
Yeah,
school, it transcends football.
Two reputable colleges in the south, eh?
It transcends
Yeah.
football,
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
actually. So that rivalry on the field, I mean, that's blood and sand.
Yeah.
Trust me. You ain't leaving nothing on the field when you're going for those games.
And funny enough, because in my days I went to St. Benedict's, Naps and Prayers was always rival because one of them has to meet St. Benedict's.
Right.
So it was always rival, even though they wasn't as good as St.
Who
Benedict's.
to meet in St. Benedict's?
Who beat us,
Who meet in St. Benedict's, right?
St. Benedict's, right.
You know, well, I had early club exposure, as I said, you know, I had early club exposure. So really and truly is, well, in those days, you know, the defense force rule local football, even up to today. I think the defense force have the most national titles, you know, and the defense force was so strong because they was the only, let me say, I would say, professional team, because they, besides some of the companies where a sportsman could have get some type of employment, you know, defense force is giving the employment to most of the top footballers. So all of the top footballers or good footballers in the country used to gravitate into the army because of employment and stuff like that. So they always have some of the top players. So the rivalry was straight defense force at a certain time. Memphis with Keto Joseph and Mickey Rat and them, there was a problem to deal with at a certain time, you know. There was a certain time. So we went through all those type of...
Why don't we take a break, and then when we come back, we can pick up where you left up with the teams that we, and those rivalry. Viewers, we'll be right back after the short break.
Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited offers solutions to your immediate and future potential problem areas by providing you with a qualified team of safety consultants. Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited, building a reputation on quality and value since 1999. Located 23 Todd Street, San Fernando, Trinidad. Phone 868-657-1534 or 868-788-6955. worldwidesafety@yahoo.com.
Okay, viewers, welcome back to Field of Dreams. This is Axe Television Network. Before the break, Brian was talking about Defense Force, and we've heard that name called over and over and over as a rival. And I'll let you continue, Brian.
Yeah, like I was saying, that we all know, as we were saying, that Defense Force to most teams in Trinidad was one of the key rivalry, the team to beat, you know, and because of that, as I said, because of they could have taken most of the good footballers in the country and stuff like that, which make them pretty strong. But then the turn take a little bit when the professional football was introduced in 1999, that where other players started to gravitate to other clubs because of income. Right. And that is what kind of way balanced the scale a little bit in the football world locally, to say that now we get certain teams starting to get a little balance with the defense force and stuff like that. You know, this way. Petrotrin did it to a certain extent because we are all product of some type of employment through Petrotrin and stuff like that, because a gentleman named to mention who did a lot of work in terms of building Trintok at that time was Mr. Richard Braffett.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Richard Braffett was he started to employ a lot of players from Point Fortin, from the south, even some from the north, because even some Stuart Charles, who now coach the W Connection team, when aviation service went into problems, all of us came down and started playing for Trintock and joined up with Larry and the rest and Clayton Morris and all of us, and Trintock used to be that strong team during them times. Around the 80s and things, so Larry? Yeah, around the 80s, so Trintock had to get really strong because Mr. Richard Bradford did a lot of work in Russell Atapi, Marvin Foston, look, Anthony, all of us here play for Trintock during that time. So we had to kind of get together to in that force to overthrow the defense force in a positive way. Yeah.
I remember some games you used to have big fours every year in the Skinner Park. And of course, Trintock and Defence Force, Palo Seco and Police. But the main rivalry used to be Trintock and Defence Force, and those games were hard. I mean,
physical, brutal.
It was brutal. It was brutal. That's what it was. It was brutal. I can remember one of our players, Tony Joseph, got his foot broken in one of those games by a malicious tackle by a Defence Force player, and there was no remorse. There was absolutely no remorse. You know, left the ball, everything, attack, run into two. And I mean, Tony was a fantastic player. Left-footed guy, strong on the screen, quick and could hit the ball like a mule. So he was a threat. So I mean, they took him out, and it was as far as defense was concerned, that was a victory for them. And that was the type of rivalry that Trinidad had back in those days. And I'm talking about, I mean, Skinner Park was packed. The stands were full. The cycle track was full. I mean, when Trinidad playing Defence Force on those big fours, the place was packed. And all the different teams with the supporters pinching bets all over the place. And you know the normal peacock that football brings. The atmosphere used to be fantastic. As a player, just walking out of the dressing room and hearing the crowd and the buzz and everything, you know, it brought a little tingle to you.
Makes you want to play.
Make you want to play.
Stevie will know about that.
Makes you want to play.
He'll know, make you want to play.
I remember those days so vividly, and it brings a smile to my face because they are good memories. Really, really good memories. And of course, after the playing days, you know, we and all those Defence Force players know we are best of friends, of course. You know, there's no animosity after we have finished playing.
After you finish.
But on the field, of course, there's no friend. I mean,
Got to battle.
You're good friend. I mean, those guys would do anything. Cough, elbow, kick, anything.
No love lost on the field.
No love lost, just to get the advantage on the field. And we understood that. As ballers, we understood that's what it took. You know, so we played the game as it was to be played. And I must say, even in those hard derby games, the technical ability and the performance on the field, it was good football for the spectators. You know, sometimes these games could just be pure rivalry and no football. But some of those games had, in those days, if they used to do technical analysis of games, you would still come up with a pretty good rating of the game itself. Because we're talking about between the two teams something like 20-something national players.
So,
you know, so there would be a high level of technical ability. And the local rivalry, of course, will bring the energy to the game. And those bring back fun memories to me.
But
well, it's companies. I mean, companies, Defence Force and Petrotrain, they both hire the best players they could. So
the bragging rights. I mean, and of course, those days there was no money.
Yeah.
It was bragging rights.
But you know, this is the point I come in to make. You know,
bragging rights.
Stevie, you know, although with that fierce battle and brutalness and competitiveness and all those different things that we carry, and that natural passion, you know, as we're talking about it here, you know, I can't recall really what was the prize money or what we was playing for. You know this way. You know this way, because when you really check it out now that we're talking about it, we come and say, well, what we was really playing for at that point in time.
Nothing.
Besides,
a trophy.
A trophy.
And mostly bragging rights.
Bragging rights.
Just
because
to have the trophy other than the opponent.
Yes, and that was something else to see the natural passion from everybody during that time.
Natural, I mean.
And what's interesting in those days, I mean, just, you know, one of the things I mentioned to somebody not too long ago is that it would be so difficult, you know, to play football in this era, because, you know, I feel so bad for players today who will not have experienced the atmosphere of, you know, a Defence Force Trintock you
Yeah,
know, a
back
Point
in the
Fortin Civic Center,
Yeah.
maybe a
Yeah.
Malvern,
Yes.
you know, St. Benedict's College, Naparima
Yeah.
College.
Yeah.
You know, it like Brian said, there was never any thought about, you know, financial remuneration. I wonder, you know, what my, you know, what my
The take.
fee
Yeah,
today is
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be. It was just about, listen, this is an amazing occasion, and I want to do as well as we possibly could, you know, today, you know. So, yeah, it was just so vital to football back in those days, and I think today we just miss so much of that, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know if we have any real rivalries. I
Rivalries.
know professionally Central FC
And might be a W connection.
and
So
W
one of the
connection.
things that's missing from the modern game now is the crowd.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, I wonder how these guys who carry the label of professional now
Yeah.
feel to go in a stadium and there are more chairs than people.
Right.
I mean, we knew nothing about that nowadays.
yeah.
Absolutely nothing. I mean, in the community league, which we call minor league long term, there was massive crowds.
Yeah. Yeah.
People used to follow the game, you know. So that, like Tony, I mean, some of the guys now, although I'm not too sure if they actually miss the crowd if they get paid, you know, which is sad,
Sure.
right? Because I think the game in itself should always be treated with a certain amount of respect, regardless of financial remuneration. I'm not taking that away. We live in a different time to when I was playing. But before the financial remuneration, it must have that passion for the game, full stop.
Well, that might be the problem because football is entertainment, like you're going to the movies,
Yeah.
you're going to a football game, so you have to entertain the crowd. So if people are not getting that entertainment, they're not going to come out. So the players have to look at themselves in the mirror to a certain extent and say, am I doing anything to bring these people out? Because a lot of times people come out to see Brian Williams or Larry Joseph or Anthony Sherwood, and then you guys fans bring other friends with them to say, you got to come and see this guy play. You know, and that's what pushed me, because I know my fans might bring somebody to come and see me play.
Of course.
So I had to be pushed every single night. I want to put.
Yeah, and I think
I wouldn't
I
make
think
myself
I think what you're saying there, Steve, held for during our era as well,
Right.
because it started in the community when you came out and you play, and people realized that you were a special talent. Of course, that following wherever you went. When I left my village and I went to Presentation College, when Presentation was playing in Union Hall, the amount of library people was there.
But-
you know,
Yeah,
and
but
it's the same thing when you
Yeah.
went on to the national team.
yeah.
Not just your villagers, but your whole southern community, because they would have seen you play.
Of course.
And when you went to the national team, you know, represented South. So I going up the highway to see
Right.
you play for trainer because you
Exactly.
represented South.
Exactly.
So that in itself used to ensure that you had a partisan following, right? As to why that has not maintained itself, I'm sure all of us could give a few more reasons.
Well, Stevie, this is one of the big questions in local football, even up to today, that I don't know. Some few people seem to have really the answer for the deterioration of crowd support in our games and stuff like that. I don't know where the direction could directly lead to, but I don't know if it's mistrust with our administrators and what we could go. There's so many factors we could look at that cause the deterioration of fans turning out to local games. You know, it's always a worry for people like us who into football and where that gone, because you know the turnstiles or even self-crowd in any sport is the driving force for, let me say, good performance or motivated performance, and that is something that a lot of people still looking into. What caused that deterioration now that we don't get crowds into our game? I've been looking at some of the games locally, where we all continue to look at it, and sometimes I go to some of the local games and I find they have decent quality, but essentially, what is the reason that caused that is now, and we have to accept change.
True.
The distraction, there's more distraction now, because look, like I into youth coaching now, and sometimes I will see top games going on television, and even some of the kids even self worry to look at it. You seeing a kid playing now, as we say, playing a football game with one of those things, and don't go outside directly and get involved. He pick his big team, he pick a team, he play big players, and
Right.
he will play on a computer or whatever. And that was, so even stuff like coaching kids now, you see, the natural motoric skills, as you would say, to jump, turn, twist, your rhythm, your coordination, your agility. Some of the kids they themselves looking physically prepared. So we say, well, what, this kind of way. So there's a lot of factors that we have to look into to really say what is the problem. And I hear people saying, bring back the football into the community. Is that really so? And how we doing it? Because could you ask now if we into professional football, because time change, that where people being paid to play, you have people standing around the ground looking at the game, but how the security put it in place?
Right. Right.
You understand what I mean? So I hear a lot of things that bring the football back into the community. How you would do it? Because you cannot ask now paid professional footballers to play on a ground where a man stand up on the line.
Right.
Where you could trip you, could pelt a tackle, or if they invade the field, there's no control.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that we have to look at, the administrators have to look at, and I think I was even going so far with the restructuring of Trinidad football, because we 1.3, 1.2 million people.
Right.
And if you break it down, how much we play in football, and this leaves us up to really look at things at where you're having a pro league, you're having a super league, you're having all those different leagues, and sometimes you're targeting few players, the same amount of players. So we've been all over that.
But when we have one of our national teams doing well, like when the women be sold out, or
yes,
the men be sold out, so the people want this.
Want it.
So why are they not going to?
I think
club games?
it's interesting, Steve. I've been away for a while, you know. So, but I was always seemingly in touch with everything that was happening in football. And I think what's happened is that, as Brian mentioned, times have changed. The Trinidad and Tobago public football supporters are saturated with football, from Champions League to the Premier League to the Bundesliga.
On
You're
TV.
getting, on television.
Yes.
In those days, I remember when I was growing up, there were maybe 2 occasions when you would see football on TV on a Sunday.
Yes.
There was a show called The Road to Wembley, and then I think we started getting some Italian football.
Yes.
That's where you would see like a Diego Maradona, for instance. So you were not necessarily inundated with as much football. So the truth of the matter is that you would, as a youngster, see Road to Wembley, and next thing you know, 2 hours after, you're on the field trying to emulate some of what you're seeing. So as times have changed, I think we almost have to adopt a different approach in terms of the way we market the game. You know, a friend of mine who's involved in entertainment said something. He said, if you can please a Trinidad and Tobago fan, then you know you're world class. Right? Because it's the hardest thing to do. If you literally can say to yourself, or it's acknowledged that you are a crowd favorite, it means that you've achieved something.
Right.
Because the typical Trinidad and Tobago fan loves to criticize.
Yes,
That's the truth of the matter, you know. So I think what people are essentially trying to communicate, the fans or the lack thereof fans, is that what we want is something that resembles football at the highest level. Obviously it's not achievable given the lack of resources that we have.
Right.
But people associate cricket now, for instance, with entertainment. You know, you look at the success of the CPL. You go to one of these cricket games, it's not just about 20 overs of cricket.
Or players saying they don't want to play Test again.
Exactly. You know. So I think what has happened is that with the amount of media that we now have access to. In those days too, I mean, the truth of the matter is that there were 3 television stations.
No, there's 2 at the
You
time.
know, everybody today has cable. So the average person out there in Trinidad and Tobago is just seeing a lot of football. And what they're saying essentially is that you have to come really, really good to get my $20, $30.
This is
You've got to provide quality. You've got to provide a package that makes me really want to leave San Fernando and travel to Port of Spain to support W Connection or Central FC.
Well, just saying, leave a good game on television to go and see, because I've seen so much games on television. Should I leave my house to really go out and watch a local game? And
exactly,
this is it.
You know, and I think we've got to really understand that because of the time that we live in, there's got to be a professional club in Trinidad and Tobago. Limited resources, of course. These guys are doing the absolute best that they can. But one of the most important components to your setup has to be your marketing team.
Yes.
You know, you look at any of the big clubs in the world today, the Manchester Uniteds, Manchester Cities, they have guys literally following that team every day. You can see what Yaya Toure does from the minute he reaches the training ground to his session, the various community type events that he does. So there's a real connection with the fans. People, you know, people become very acquainted with this man that they're supporting. So we almost have to change the way we reach people and really come to understand that, you know, marketing the game today is probably as important as your other aspects of your football operation. Civic Center, for instance, I mean, that's a club that's near and dear to me. I grew up right outside of Point Fortin. Success for me at 15 was being able to play with Civic Center. The truth of the matter is that I am never too sure what's happening with Civic Center, you know. What I would respond to is maybe Civic Center really being aggressive about marketing what's happening down there. So reaching you via social media. I mean, that's the world we live in.
That's
a
a
lot of information is communicated. Maybe a YouTube page, you know, that shows me, hey, these are the guys who are playing with Civic Center. This is the abilities that these guys have, you know. And just try to create some excitement about what's happening with Civic Center, for instance, you know.
You're right about that, but I think you got to create what they do outside is they create this person bigger than life.
Yeah, no question.
So people want to come out and see
Yeah, I mean, the hype that goes into promoting a Manchester United derby with Manchester City, the build up to that game probably starts a week before, 2 weeks before, you know, where Alex Ferguson in those days may have said something about the manager of Manchester City, and it's spun, 10 different ways. And so what they're doing essentially is that they're creating an excitement and anticipation about this event that's about to take place on Sunday, you know. And I think, you know, in back in the days when we played, we didn't have to compete with that, you know. People, that was the entertainment, you know. People knew Brian Williams is playing today, and I want to see this man who I've seen on television playing with the national team. Today, we've got to accept that is not necessarily enough to draw people to the stadium. We've got to create something that gets fans excited, you know. And I think that's just the reality of Trinidad and Tobago.
But Tony and Stevie, and all that being said is good. But when we're watching, all fairness to the clubs and stuff and them things, and I don't really want to knock at that administration and structure, but we have to go there, to which is also important for our administrators to also kind of maintain that interest among clubs and players, because we even see today that we have problems, even that I spend a little time with United Petrotron, and I coach the Pro League team, and just off my head with peanuts, a budget went into about, let me say, $3.5 million for me to run our senior teams and some of our EU teams and stuff like that. And you play and not sure if when you win the league, if you will get your money prize and all these different things. And these serious things that we have to look at, and even sort of our structuring of our football totally, because sometimes we're being failed administratively to run the football in a proper way that can maintain the interest of even some of the clubs and the players.
Sure.
So we kind of fall apart from that aspect, and it make it feel like it's a joke, because for instance, look like we see in Trinidad in the Pro League here, they have about 5 cups. You know, this kind of way, because every corporate person want the mileage. So you have the Toyota Cup, you have this cup, you have that cup, you have one set of cup, that sometimes even have lost how you're playing, or where the teams, or which cup the team playing for. Likewise, if you take a page out of the BPL, you'll know it's the league, the FA Cup, and maybe what? The Carling Cup or something like that. So I mean to say, if corporate Trinidad want to move the sport in a positive way, I know everybody want the mileage, but let me pool. and let it be more lucrative or let it be more attractive, and let it be real, because sometimes when I hear since last year or 2 years, prize money you pay and you don't show where you're getting it from and all them things, it's kind of way not too nice for.
Let's take a break.
Yes.
When we come back, we continue, but we'll talk about community involvement in football.
Yes.
We'll be right back.
Yes.
Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited offers solutions to your immediate and future potential problem areas by providing you with a qualified team of safety consultants. Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited, building a reputation on quality and value since 1999. Located 23 Todd Street, San Fernando, Trinidad. Phone 868-657-1534 or 868-788-6955. worldwidesafety@yahoo.com.
Welcome back to Field of Dreams. Before the break, we were discussing, the involvement and how can we get the crowds out and how can we make it better. And we talk about, you guys mentioned Point Forces Civic Center. I think all Civic needs to do is to win, because the community is so traditionally knowledgeable about the game, and they so want to support
team,
Point Fortin. It's just, they just need to win. Because when they just came into the league and they were winning.
Oh.
They were
But
doing
Point
well,
Fortin
right?
Civic Center, participating in the Pro League has something that some of the teams don't have.
Exactly.
Which is one, a home ground right in the middle of their community.
Right.
So, like all the other established teams in world football, their name speaks about their community. And Brian was making a point against trying to put the football back in the community, because he's not too sure whether they could bring it to an acceptable level.
Right.
But I said that's a poor excuse.
True.
I mean, what would I prefer if I'm a professional player? To play in Mani Ramjan with a perfect turf with 5 people, or to play in Library with an okay ground that I grew up on in front of 10,000 people, and all the players would say, put me in Library.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So to say, but this man would be on the line, those guys who play in Pro League, that's where they grew up in the minor leagues, where the crowd were on the line.
Right.
And they enjoyed it.
And there are instances where some of those Pro League players are actually going back into the minor
Exactly.
leagues, just
Because that is a
fan.
missing component from the Pro League, and they miss it so much, they even compromise their contract by going back into these things. So I am saying that, and I know that they're looking at it actively. I'm not too sure if they have the willpower to say, listen, we need to get these teams connected with our community. There are grounds in all the communities that the teams that participate in Pro League have. Take some time. I had made a suggestion to the Pro League some year when we were with the United Petrotrin. We were playing something like 4 rounds back in those days together with all those cups that Brian said. I'm saying, take 1 round for each team and pick a game. United Petrotrin, our home game was Palaseco Velodrome. Again, it was right in the community. We had a following. Teams used to glad to come and play us because you only trying to play in front of the crowd.
Right.
And I mean, we were kind of bottom half team.
Right.
But they didn't mind coming down because people were in the stands and clapping. So I suggested to them, take a game. W Connection was in those days and still is our top team. W Connection had access to our community ground. Pick a game during that run of 9 games and say, okay, we will play that game in the community ground. That is,
Yes.
And you have enough time to prepare the facility. Get everything that is necessary for the game to be safe for everybody. But the game will be played in a community ground. And if you do that for each team, for each round, which means you're not doing every round like that, you would see the difference, while at the same time starting to get people in the community attracted to this team and maybe wanting to follow them when they go back to the stadium. And I made that suggestion because, listen, there are some tried and tested formulas that, regardless of how much time passes, will continue to be tried and proven. And one of them is sport needs support. And let me tell you something.
Yeah, definitely.
Football belongs to the people.
Yes.
Whether you carry the handle of professional, semi-pro. Football belongs to the people. And when you take it from the people and say it's because there's a facility that is better for a squad of 25 players, you are saying, in a sense, that the 5,000 to 10,000 people that reside in the community, you are devaluing their support by saying that this facility is better prepared for this squad of 25 players.
So, the result of that should be, like you said, bring it to the community. So prepare the community ground to make it safe enough.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Back in the day.
That's what I'm saying.
This is what I'm saying, and exactly.
So you have all these cups that you play. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead.
Take a little time and say, okay, Point Fortin Civic Center, well, your ground has been developed now, so it's a top ground.
Right.
And it's in the community.
Right.
So get that organized. Okay, you may not have a ground like yours available, but you give them enough time to bring it up to an acceptable level. And that's easy to do now.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's
You
a
know?
lot of politics involved, Larry, to be honest with you. Some of these grounds, for instance, may fall in the Arima City Corporation. So the Arima City Corporation is saying that we cannot take this ground, which is a public ground,
And put it to a private club.
and make it essentially a private ground, where the other folks in Arima, going to be involved in their recreation activities. And I think for a long time that's been the obstacle per se, So unless you have the absolute support, Skinner Park, for instance, was a great venue for football. It's now seemingly a venue where there is a lot of entertainment, especially around Carnival.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how wonderful it would be for a team that's based in San Fernando, that maybe consists of players from maybe Presentation or Benedict's or Pleasantville, and get those supporters in that one place. But you probably would not be able to achieve that, because around Carnival time, make no mistake about it, that those events will take priority, So there are there's a lot of
things,
politics involved in every turn and in every move that you seem to make, And in a small country, it's sad because you'd think, listen, football could have an amazing effect on the population as a whole.
Yes.
We could go from being people who are not supporting the game at all to all of a sudden being in the stadium when the women's team came one game away from qualifying for the World Cup. I mean, I went to one or two of the Caribbean type legs of that tournament. Maybe 2,000 people there, if that much. I remember driving into the stadium, and it took about an hour to get from Ryson Road to inside the stadium. So it's just sad to me that the powers that be do not recognize the impact that sports as a whole, football, cricket, and what have you, could have on the population and the younger generation. I think that's one of the reasons we have the crime that's taking place in this country. If you grew up in Laventille in the 80s, you knew a guy like Russell Latapi came from Laventille, that is who you wanted to emulate.
Yes.
In the absence of somebody like that in that community, these kids are turning now to gang leaders and these influences. And that's what I'm saying. Sport is, every other country in the world seems to understand the importance of it.
So
we apparently don't, to be honest, which is so sad, to be honest.
Like what Larry said, I totally agree with him, because, like, for instance, and I was just showing that the difficulties we might have, but it's the ideal situation to bring the games of such nature to the community, or in the community, to the respective teams. Like I would say, for instance, we had United Patrician, who was in the pro league. But out of the 10 teams or 8 or whatever team, was the only team that have their own home venue. So you see the challenge that what Anthony, Tony talking about, to get the rest of...
But I would say, Ryan, just, let me interject there. I think one of the things that brought people out to football, right, whether it would be in the past era, in this era, players, stars, for instance. So as I mentioned, I remember my mother and my uncle talking about Steve Davis, Leroy Dillion. And there's an excitement to see who these enigmas are, because you're not seeing them on TV necessarily here locally. So what we have to do, I think, is try to create stars, people who have the ability to create that level of interest. I grew up listening to everybody talk about these stars. One of my biggest regrets was not having a chance to see you guys play live.
Yes.
And Brian mentioned off camera a game where all of you guys were brought back to Jamaica. I think I was maybe 12 years old, and I made my way to Mahika to see that game. You know, looking through obviously scores of people trying to find a vantage point. But you know, after hearing so much about these legendary players, that's what I wanted to see. And I don't think the Pro League today, which is our highest level of football locally, really does a good enough job of creating stars. You know, I look at all these billboards and I see these people who are being used for advertising, be mobile or what have you. And I'm saying to myself, why not put a footballer from Point Fortin on a billboard going down? This is so on and so forth. He is, you know, Civic Center, you know, and create some excitement about things, you know.
But the Pro League teams can do that, but
Well, that's what I'm
whoever
saying.
belongs to a community. Yeah? But so we really want to do that in Point as well. Try to put our players out there in public, which I mean, most of the people know the players because Point is so small and so
Right.
tight-knit community. Everywhere you go, there's a Point.
But Steve, I have to
Point
tell
is
you,
a
I mean,
point.
I am originally obviously from right outside of Point Fortin, Gonzales. And I know, I mean, when you open the papers, you know, and there's some news and I see Civic Center, I just have a natural inclination to want to know what transpired with Point Fortin Civic Center.
Right.
And I could tell you honestly that I know a handful of the players at Civic Center.
Right.
The youngster who played with the national team,
Marcus Joseph.
and a few other guys. But I would like to know everything that's happening with Marcus Joseph. You know, is he going abroad? Are there teams in Europe interested in him? I think some of those things, quite frankly, as a football fan, would probably get me, you know, even more
Excited.
in touch and excited about what Civic Center is doing. So the same thing with W Connection, Central FC, all these teams. You know, we've got to really work for Trinidad and Tobago supporters. That's the message I think they're sending to us.
We're coming to the end of the show, so I'll give each of you guys a minute to say a piece or to talk to somebody out there, or public, a kid or whatever, about what you think or how things can get better.
Well, for those young footballers out there in the public, I would encourage you guys to love your trade and spend as much time as you can, if necessary, on your own to better yourself both technically and otherwise. If you belong to a club or an academy, listen to your coaches. That is very important, you know. And the sky is the limit, because you guys live in a time now where football can take you everywhere. A la Latapi, a la Dwight York, Kenwin Jones. Prime examples that shows you if you love your trade enough and you have the passion, you can realize your dream. And last but not least, get in touch with your spiritual side, because God is important to your existence. So I will implore you, don't just look at the physical side, but try to be holistic. Get in touch with your spiritual side also.
Right?
Yeah, and I can obviously share those similar sentiments like Larry, because these are at the end of the day, our country is very important to all of us. So we have to have that whole national drive and interest and passion for what we do as a country. You know what I mean? And besides all the little problems that we have at the end of the day, Trinidad and Tobago first, and still we stand strong in one of the smallest countries that ever qualified for a World Cup. So it's not beyond us, youngsters. I think it's important that we all gather and carry that interest and be humble, be obedient, as you know, we all say towards the whole football drive and stuff like that. So again, I say, let's keep ourselves together and have a collective drive for what we want to achieve in life.
I think for me, Steve, I want to first of all thank you for the opportunity. All these guys here have been inspirations, including yourself. For me, as a youngster growing up, I wanted to emulate Brian and Larry as a man who went to presentation, left a legacy, and yourself, obviously, being from Point Fortin. For me, I look at what's happening right now as it pertains to football as an exciting time. Because the truth of the matter is that it would be fantastic if things were as we would want it.
Yeah.
Phenomenal fan support. The national teams are doing well. Everything's great, you know. But I think there's a real opportunity for folks who are genuine about seeing football, for instance, rise to be part of the catalyst that takes it from maybe the bottom of the barrel to maybe the heights that we all would like
Want
to
to-
see it. And I think we all have a part to play, you know, whether it be as coaches, in whatever capacity. You know, I think we've just got to really understand that together is the only way this thing's going to be achieved. You know, we're not going to be able to achieve the success we would like to see football exist at
Yes.
individually.
That's
You know,
right.
it's got to be everybody coming together, putting their heads together, and just trying to find the right way forward. You know, and I hope soon we get back to that point where, you know, guys and players of today can feel the same level of love and appreciation that older players felt when they played
Yes.
football.
As Anthony says, team effort. So to the public, to the supporters, to the players, to the coaches, to the administrators,
collective
everybody.
approach.
We need you. The media, we need
Yes,
everybody
That's
yes,
to come
yes.
and make this happen for us.
Yeah.
We have come to the end of another edition of Field of Dreams. I want to thank Axe Television Network for giving us the opportunity to bring this to our viewers. I want to thank our viewers for letting us into your homes and to bring the show. We hope you guys enjoy it, and we need to hear from you. To my panel, guys, I appreciate you guys so much. I thank you so much for coming and giving us
Been
this
my
opportunity
pleasure.
to share that with our
welcome,
viewers. We are on Facebook, and we do have an email address. It's fieldofdreamstt@gmail.com. Drop us a line. This is the end of the show. I've got to say good night, and I'll see you guys next week. See you.